I told you, lady, step back. You're making people nervous digging in your purse like that. What are you hiding? The sharp, accusing voice of the security guard cut through the low hum of the crowd. John, standing a few feet away, turned, his heart giving a sudden, worried thump. His wife, Sarah, was at the front of the line, trying to enter the civic auditorium where a special appreciation dinner for veterans was being held. Sarah looked flustered. I'm just looking for my invitation, officer. It's right here somewhere. Her voice was gentle, a little shaky. She hated being the center of attention, especially negative attention. The guard, a burly man whose name tag read Miller, puffed out his chest. He clearly enjoyed the small bit of power his uniform gave him. Invitation? Everyone knows this event. You look like you don't belong here. What's your real business? John started to move forward. Excuse me, officer, he began, his tone calm. She's with me. We have our invitations. Miller barely glanced at John. His eyes, cold and suspicious, were fixed on Sarah. Stay out of this, sir. I'm handling a security issue. To Sarah, he snapped. Empty your purse on the table, now. Sarah's hands trembled as she fumbled with the clasp of her small evening bag. A lipstick, a small compact, and a folded piece of paper, the invitation, tumbled out. But Miller wasn't looking at those. He was staring at her, his expression growing darker. You're taking too long. You're being deliberately uncooperative, he barked. Before John could intervene further, before Sarah could even gasp, Miller unclipped his taser. There was a crackle, a bright flash. Sarah screamed, a short, sharp cry of pain and shock, and crumpled to the ground. The world seemed to stop for John. For a horrifying second, he just stared. His Sarah, his gentle wife, was on the floor, twitching, her face a mask of agony. A red rage, hot and fierce, surged through him, a feeling he hadn't felt since his days in combat, but years of discipline, of leading men in situations where panic meant death, took over. He pushed past a stunned bystander and knelt beside Sarah. Sarah, honey, can you hear me? His voice was tight but controlled. Miller stood over them, the taser still in his hand, a smug look on his face. She was resisting, became a threat. I followed procedure. If you believe that no one deserves to be treated with such cruelty, especially those who have supported our nation's heroes, type justice for Sarah in the comments below. John ignored him. He gently cradled Sarah's head. Her eyes fluttered open, filled with tears and confusion. John, it hurts, she whispered. I know, sweetheart, I know. Just breathe. I'm here, he murmured, his gaze sweeping over her, checking for any immediate injury from the fall. The crowd around them had gone silent, a ring of shocked faces staring at the scene. Some were whispering, others pulling out their phones. The unfairness of it all burned in John's chest like a raw wound. They had come here tonight to be honored, to share an evening with fellow service members, to remember and be remembered. John himself wasn't one for accolades. He was a quiet man, his heroism tucked away in memories and a few carefully stored medals he rarely looked at. He had served his country for 30 years, rising through the ranks, leading men, making impossible decisions. He had seen hardship, faced danger, but this felt different. This was a violation of everything he held dear, an attack on his family in a place that should have been safe, celebratory. He looked up at Miller, his eyes now like chips of ice. You had no right, he said, his voice low and steady, yet carrying a weight that made a few onlookers take a step back. Miller scoffed. I have every right. I'm security. It's my job to stop troublemakers. And she, he gestured dismissively at Sarah, was trouble. John knew arguing with this man was pointless. He was drunk on his petty authority. There were other ways to handle this. He carefully helped Sarah to sit up, leaning her against his own body for support. Her breathing was still shallow, and he could feel her trembling. Are you all right to sit for a moment, honey? He asked softly. She nodded, clutching his arm. Yes, my heart is racing. John pulled out his phone. His movements were deliberate, unhurried. He scrolled through his contacts, his thumb stopping on a name, General Thompson. His old commanding officer, a man he had served with, a man he trusted implicitly, a man who was also supposed to be at this very event, perhaps even as a keynote speaker. He pressed the call button. The phone rang once, twice. John held his breath. What if the general was already speaking? What if his phone was off? Then a crisp, familiar voice answered. Thompson. General, John said, his voice still calm but with an underlying steel. It's John Carter. I'm outside the auditorium. We have a situation. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't plead. He simply stated the facts, his military training evident in his concise report. He explained what had happened to Sarah, the guards' actions, their current predicament. He was brief, to the point. He knew the general would understand the gravity without embellishment. On the other end, there was a short silence. Then General Thompson's voice, usually warm, turned icy. Stay right there, John. Don't move. I'm on my way. The call ended. It had lasted less than a minute. John put his phone back in his pocket. He continued to comfort Sarah, whispering assurances to her, shielding her as much as he could from the curious stares. Miller was still posturing, talking to another guard who had arrived, probably radioing in his heroic takedown of a dangerous woman. He's probably calling for backup to arrest her, Miller said loudly for John's benefit, resisting an officer, causing a public disturbance. John didn't even look at him. He just waited. He knew the general. When General Thompson said he was on his way, it meant things were about to change, drastically. Those 6 minutes felt like an eternity. The murmuring of the crowd, Sarah's soft whimpers, Miller's arrogant pronouncements, it all seemed to fade into a dull roar in John's ears. He focused on Sarah, on keeping her calm, on keeping his own anger leashed. It was a tight leash, strained to its limit. Have you ever had to stay calm when you felt like exploding? Type inner strength if you know how hard that can be. Then, things began to shift. A different kind of murmur rippled through the onlookers. Heads turned towards the entrance of the auditorium, not the line where John and Sarah were. There was a sense of authority approaching, a palpable change in the atmosphere. 2 men in sharp, dark suits appeared first, flanking the main doors from inside. They looked like professional security, not the local event type. They scanned the area with keen eyes. And then, General Thompson strode out. He was a tall man, still fit and imposing despite his silver hair. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, but his military bearing was unmistakable. His face was grim, his eyes like polished steel. He wasn't rushing, but every step he took radiated power and an absolute, non-negotiable command. Behind him, several other distinguished-looking individuals followed, some in uniform, others in civilian attire, but clearly part of his entourage or fellow high-ranking guests. The event manager, a hairy-looking man in a tuxedo, hurried to keep up with the general, his face pale and anxious. Miller, who had been preening, suddenly froze. His jaw dropped. He recognized General Thompson instantly. Who wouldn't? The general was a well-known figure, a decorated war hero. The general's gaze swept over the scene, taking in Sarah on the ground, John kneeling beside her, and Miller standing there with the taser still loosely in his grip. His eyes narrowed, and if looks could freeze, Miller would have been an ice sculpture. What in the blazes is going on here? General Thompson's voice wasn't a shout, but it cut through the air like a sword, silencing everyone. Miller stammered, his earlier arrogance vanishing like mist in the sun. General Thompson, sir, this woman, she was a security threat. I had to neutralize her. He gestured vaguely with the taser. The general's eyes fixed on the taser, then on Sarah, then on John. His expression hardened further. He strode directly towards John and Sarah, ignoring Miller completely for the moment. John? Sarah? Are you all right? His voice softened considerably when he addressed them. He knelt beside John. General, John said, relief washing over him, though his voice remained steady. Sarah's been tased. She needs medical attention. Already on its way, the general said grimly, glancing back towards the entrance where a medical team was now hurrying through. He then turned his steely gaze back to Miller, who seemed to shrink under the intensity. You, the general said, his voice low and dangerous. You tased this woman? Miller swallowed hard. Sir, she was being uncooperative. My assessment was... Your assessment? General Thompson cut him off, his voice rising slightly, laced with cold fury. Do you have any idea who this man is? Do you have any idea who you just assaulted? Miller looked blankly from the general to John, then back again. He's just some guy, sir, with her. A short, harsh laugh escaped the general. Just some guy? This some guy is Colonel John Carter, retired, 30 years of service. Recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, and multiple Bronze Stars for valor. He has led men into battle and brought them home. He has saved more lives than you've had hot dinners. And this, he gestured to Sarah, who was now being gently attended to by the paramedics, is his wife, Sarah Carter, a woman who has supported him through multiple deployments, who has volunteered countless hours for military families. They are honored guests here tonight, my personal guests. The color drained from Miller's face. He looked at John with wide, disbelieving eyes. John met his gaze, not with triumph, but with a quiet sorrow. The crowd gasped. Whispers turned into louder exclamations of shock and outrage directed at Miller. The event manager rushed forward, wringing his hands. General, Colonel Carter, Mr. Miller is with a private security firm we contracted. This is appalling. I had no idea. General Thompson stood up, his full height seeming to dominate the space. Appalling doesn't begin to cover it, Mr. Henderson. This man, he pointed a rigid finger at Miller, is a disgrace to any uniform he wears. He has assaulted the wife of a decorated war hero at an event designed to honor veterans. He has shown a catastrophic lack of judgment and an abuse of power. If you think people in authority should always be held accountable, type accountability now below. His employment with this venue, and preferably with any security firm, ends tonight, the general stated, his voice leaving no room for argument, and I expect a full investigation into his conduct and the training protocols of his company. The manager nodded vigorously. Yes, General, absolutely. Mr. Miller, hand over your badge and your equipment. You are dismissed. Effective immediately. Miller, looking utterly defeated and terrified, fumbled with his badge. He avoided eye contact with everyone, especially John and the general. The other guard who had been with Miller now looked horrified and quickly distanced himself. General Thompson turned back to John. John, I am so profoundly sorry. Sarah, my dear, are you able to move? We'll get you to a quiet room, and the doctors will check you thoroughly. Sarah, still shaken but feeling safer now, nodded. Thank you, General. John helped his wife to her feet, the paramedic supporting her other side. The general put a supportive hand on John's shoulder. We'll take care of everything, John. The event manager was profusely apologetic. Colonel Carter, Mr. Carter, please accept my deepest apologies on behalf of the venue and all our staff. This should never have happened. Your evening, it's ruined. John looked at the manager, then at the general. What happened to Sarah was wrong, but the spirit of why we are here tonight, that shouldn't be ruined for everyone else. The general nodded, a look of deep respect in his eyes. Spoken like the true leader you are, John. In the aftermath, things moved quickly. Sarah was taken to a private suite where a doctor, who was also a guest at the event, examined her thoroughly. Thankfully, aside from the pain, bruising, and the shock, she had no lasting physical injuries, but the emotional trauma was evident. Miller was escorted off the premises, his career in security likely over. The event company immediately began a review of their contracted security firm, and new protocols were discussed to ensure veterans and their families were treated with the utmost respect and understanding, especially regarding potential PTSD triggers or mobility issues that might make someone seem uncooperative to an untrained eye. General Thompson personally ensured John and Sarah were comfortable. He had a quiet word with the chief of the private security firm, and it was made clear that this incident would have significant repercussions for them if they didn't implement sweeping changes in their training and vetting processes. Later that evening, after Sarah felt a bit better and had rested, John and she decided to briefly join the dinner at the general's insistence. When they entered, escorted by the general himself, a ripple went through the room. Someone started to clap. Then another. Soon, the entire ballroom was on its feet, giving John and Sarah a standing ovation. Not just for John's past service, which the general had discreetly made known to a few key people, but for their dignity in the face of such an ugly incident. John, ever humble, felt a blush rise to his cheeks. He simply nodded, a small, grateful smile on his face, while Sarah managed a watery smile herself. They hadn't sought the attention, but the wave of support was a balm to their shaken spirits. The story of what happened at the entrance spread like wildfire, not just through the event, but online in the days that followed. People were outraged by Miller's actions and heartened by the swift justice and the support shown to the Carters. John never wanted to be a hidden hero who needed to be revealed. He had been content with his quiet life. But the incident served as a stark reminder. Respect is not just for those whose rank or achievements are visible. It's for everyone, And sometimes, it takes a dramatic moment for that lesson to hit home. Sarah recovered, though the memory of that day lingered. What helped most was the outpouring of kindness and the knowledge that what happened to her led to positive changes, ensuring others might be spared similar ordeals. The core lesson of this story is simple. Never judge a book by its cover, and always treat others with the dignity they deserve. Unseen sacrifices and quiet strength reside in many people around us. If you believe our veterans, and indeed all people, deserve respect and understanding, share this story. Remember to subscribe for more stories where justice prevails and true character shines through. We believe in the power of good deeds and the importance of standing up for what's right. What are your thoughts on how respect should be shown every day? Let us know in the comments.